time for the news bulletin on Channel 2. I am Bethha, and starting off with the main headlines of the day. Prime Minister Madbouli shares meeting on monitoring social media and online games for protecting children and youth. Gaza Rafah border crossing with Egypt opens for first time in almost a year. And Israel issues evacuation warnings in South Lebanon ahead of strikes. Welcome back, the news in full. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli stressed the state's keenness on monitoring social media and games platforms that do not abide by safety criteria for children and youth. This came in a meeting that the Prime Minister held to discuss the measures to provide cyber protection for children. Prime Minister Madbouli also pointed to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's recent remarks regarding the necessity of studying putting legislations to protect children and youth and to restrict the harmful digital content on social platforms. In the same context, Madbouli added that the steps taken by the House of Representatives in this regard are part of the state policy to draft a comprehensive law that organizes and puts more regulation for kids while using social media and games. Prime Minister Madbouli announced the launch of Egypt's General Census 2027, saying a new counting and estimation system is in place to cope with the latest technological advances in this respect. The launch was made during a meeting of the High Committee for Censuses, and the Prime Minister pointed out that it is indispensable for providing ministries and also governmental agencies with data required for improving citizen services and targeting badly underdeveloped areas. Egypt on Monday condemned last week's terrorist attack on an Air Force base in Niger capital that wounded 4 soldiers and damaged an aircraft. A foreign ministry statement said that Egypt stands in solidarity with a fellow African country in the fight against terrorism. The extremist Daesh group claimed responsibility for the attack that began around midnight on Wednesday and lasted about 2 hours in the area of Hamani International Airport in Niamey. Niger State Television reported that Niger forces responded to the assault that took place early on Thursday, killing 20 of the attackers and arresting 11 others. The Rafah border crossing between the Palestinian territory of the Gaza Strip and Egypt reopened on Monday for passengers in the two directions only for the first time in almost a year. First group of Palestinians who have been stranded in Egypt returned into Gaza, while wounded Palestinians in Gaza were awaiting with hope and impatience for crossing into Egypt. Details follow.
The Rafah border crossing between the Palestinian territory of the Gaza Strip and Egypt reopened on Monday for passengers in both directions, only for the first time in almost a year. A first group of Palestinians returned to the Strip on Monday after receiving medical treatment in Egypt and elsewhere from injuries sustained during the Israeli war of genocide in the enclave. The returnees mainly were comprised of women, children, and elderly people. The return was facilitated by Egyptian Red Crescent teams, who have been providing logistical assistance and psychological support for Palestinians at the crossing. Meanwhile, the Egyptian ambulance services prepared for the reception of a group of critically injured Palestinians ahead of admitting them to Egyptian hospitals. Due to Israeli occupation restrictions, only a trickle of almost 20,000 of wounded and sick Palestinians will be allowed out each day. Egyptian reporters said about 50 wounded people are expected to enter Egypt each day. The reopening of the Rafah border crossing is limited due to Israeli demands over conducting security checks for Palestinians entering into Gaza. In May 2024, the Israeli occupation troops seized and damaged the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing, Gaza's only gateway to the outside world, not controlled by the Israelis until then. After a brief reopening during the January 2025 truce, the Israeli side re-shut the crossing down once more as they resumed the war of aggression in March. Rafah's reopening was an important requirement under the first phase of the October ceasefire that was brokered by U.S. President Donald Trump amid a broader plan to put an end to the Israeli aggression.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Health and Population Dr. Khalid Abdel Ghaffar chaired a meeting for a coordination committee tasked with the reception of Palestinian patients and wounded people coming from the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border crossing. The minister called for raising alert levels in hospitals nearby the Rafah crossing and providing suitable transport vehicles for the patients. The meeting asserted the significance of integration of humanitarian relief and healthcare works provided by all concerned bodies, including the Ministries of Health and Social Solidarity. The EU Foreign Policy Chief on Monday welcomed the reopening of the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt as a lifeline for sick and wounded Palestinians in the territory and a step forward in the peace plan. EU top diplomat Kaya Kallas posted online that the opening of the Rafah crossing marks a concrete and positive step in the peace plan. She added that the EU's civilian mission is on the ground to monitor crossing operations and support Palestinian border guards. Meanwhile, British Foreign Minister welcomed the reopening of Gaza main border crossing in Rafah, which will allow Palestinians to cross in the two directions on foot, but emphasized that much more still needed to be done. Welcome back. Israeli occupation military warned on Monday it would soon strike what it called Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon, issuing evacuation warnings for buildings in two villages. Despite the November 2024 truce, Israel has kept up strikes on Lebanon and has maintained troops in 5 southern areas. Lebanon said one person was killed and several others wounded in Israeli strikes in the country's south on Sunday in violation of the ceasefire. More than 360 have been killed by Israeli fire in Lebanon since the ceasefire. The Syrian Haska city was under a curfew on Monday imposed by Kurdish security forces as government forces were expected to enter parts of the city under an integration deal with the self-ruled Kurdish Authority in north East Syria. Damascus and Kurdish-dominated Syrian Democratic Forces reached a comprehensive agreement on Friday to integrate the Kurds' military and civilian institutions into the state. Under the deal, the two sides will pull forces back from frontline positions in parts of the northeast and from the town of Kuban in the north. A limited internal security force would enter parts of Haska and Friday deal followed deals and understanding reached in January, including the future of majority Kurdish areas of Haska province and Kuban. Iran Foreign Ministry spokesman said on Monday that Tehran expected the framework for negotiations with the U.S. would be ready in the coming days as President Donald Trump threatens military action against Tehran. The spokesman said countries of the region are acting as mediators in the exchange of messages, that Tehran is starting details of different diplomatic paths to diffuse tensions with the U.S. The spokesman said the several points have been addressed and we hope that the finalizing of the details of each stage in the diplomatic process will be concluded in the coming days. He added that this concerns the methods and also framework. Iran said on Monday it had summoned European ambassadors stationed in Tehran after the EU designation of the Revolutionary Guards Corps as a terrorist group. The statement was made by Foreign Ministry spokesman on Monday. He told the Foreign Ministry pressing briefing that this is the smallest of measures before other moves are announced. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, said a proposal by European powers to deploy NATO member troops in Ukraine as part of a proposed security guarantee and peace deal are unacceptable for Russia. Medvedev also warned that if the New START treaty expired with no replacement, that the world should be alarmed that the biggest nuclear powers had no limits for the first time since the early 1970s. The New START Treaty, signed in 2010 by U.S. President Barack Obama and Medvedev, who served as Russia's president from 2008 to 2012, limited the number of deployed strategic nuclear warheads to 1,550 on each site. The regional governor of Russia's Belgorod said on Monday a Ukrainian drone attack on the border region killed 2 civilians. The overnight strike hit a residence which caught fire and partially collapsed north of the Ukrainian border. In response to Moscow near daily bombardments in its nearly 4-year war, Ukraine has been sending drones into Russian territory to target the energy sector. Welcome back. Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat, and Acting Minister of Environment and Minister of Local Development, Manal Awad, on Monday chaired a committee meeting of the Projected Management of Air Pollution and Climate Change in Cairo. The meeting, attended by a World Bank mission and the Governor of Cairo and Al-Ubayya, tackled the progress made in this file as well as priorities of the upcoming periods. Al-Mashat hailed the extended partnership between Egypt and the World Bank, having included more than 200 projects in different development fields. The two ministers then witnessed the experimental operation of an electric bus in the framework of supplying 100 green buses. Egypt's boast was mixed on Monday amid sell-off by local Arab corporations and Arab investors against purchases by foreign corporations and local and foreign investors. The market capital of listed companies added 5 billion Egyptian pounds, crossing 3.1 trillion pounds at the end of an average transactions of 30.3 billion pounds. Benchmark index EGX 30 dipped 0.1%, and the equal-weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 rose 0.7% and 0.6% respectively. In commodity markets, oil and gold prices tumbled as concerns eased over U.S. monetary policy and the chances of an American attack on Iran. Oil dropped nearly 5%, easing from multi-month highs, with its key benchmark and London Brent North Sea crude falling 4.8%. Gold slid 5% to its lowest more than 2 weeks, while silver fell more than 7% following record hits by metals last week. Welcome back. CAF Champions League title holders Pyramids booked a place in the competition quarterfinals after hammering Renaissance Berkane of Morocco 3-0 on a match day 4 in Cairo on Sunday. Pyramids were expected to translate home advantage into 3 Group A points after drawing with Berkane in Morocco last weekend. Pyramids have 10 points in Berkane 7, Far Dynamos of Zambia 4, and the Rivers United of Nigeria 1, with 2 rounds remaining. Al-Zamalek, twice winners of the CAF Confederation Cup, restored their lead of Group D after 2-1 win over champions Al-Masri of Port Said in the 4th round group stage qualifiers. Palestinian Oday Dabar scored the winning goal on 76 minutes after both clubs converted penalties in the opening half. Al-Masri trailed the White Knights on 7 points, level with South Africa Kaizer Chiefs, while Zesco United of Zambia remain pointless and cannot qualify. Dear viewers, by that we come to the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for watching, and that was Basmatha signing off.